I was born in Cairo, and I lost my father at 2 years, and I lost my mother at 4 years. So I went to live in a town, the capital of the Delta, Tanta, and I was lucky to go there. As I say, those who shall pass all their life in Cairo, they shall not understand Egypt. Egypt is deeper than that and far from the capital. And in Tanta, I was raised by my grandmother. And that was a very important point in my life. She loved my mother, whom she lost, so all her love to her, she gave it to me. And she helped, protected, and I can say, with a certain sense of humor, she was near to spoil me, because always I was right. And that's very dangerous for a child. But when I say Tanta, because also the chance that she accepted when I was at the primary school to change the school. Perhaps, as you say, as I said to you, because he was spoiled, I said, I don't like this teacher. I don't want to see him, and I don't want the school. So it was necessary during the year to change the school. So the only school where it was possible to come, it was the Coptic school of Tanta, which was in a church. It was not any Coptic one. And I think I was the only Muslim there. And I like to elaborate on that to give you a model which can push people today when they go to certain fanaticism, how people have been thinking in the 40s. The grandmother is coming from a son, يعني واحد من أولياء الله, I don't know how you shall translate it. Sidi Mujahid, who was beside Sayyid al-Badawi, who is the most important, as you know, reference in this area. And in spite of that, she hadn't hesitated 1 second to say, okay, go to the Coptic school. And that was important in my life as a child, because that means that the first whom you shall love, whom you shall know, whom you shall discover, shall be the Copt children, your friends, and so on. And I think if we can find roots later, much, much later for the story of the interfaith, I think it started in Tanta with my Coptic. And when they ask in the last days why I was every day after we lost Pope Shenouda on the television to speak, the roots come from there. And you know, the game of destiny is very important. Imagine the man of church whom I loved when I was at the primary school, Amme Girgis, as we call him, to discover, I don't know how many years, perhaps 30 years later, in Paris, to find his son also a priest and in charge of the Coptic church beside Paris. And it was a great surprise which he kept without saying to me until the day Pope Shenouda came to Paris, and I made for him a big reception in the name of the Interfaith Dialogue. And he said, I kept this news to announce it today. I am the father. I think I was so impressed that the tears were nearly in my eyes to say, and this man, effectively his father, he was so kind with me. And to give you a folkloric story about him, when I leave the class and I am in the garden, he had a little cafeteria for himself. So he invited me and gave me tea. And I think the tea was very special. And I passed all my life to ask the same category of tea by love for him. And so then I went to secondary school, and that was also in Tanta. And that was the first relation with the public life, to take interest in our national history. And you remember at these days, the main national target was to have our independence and the evacuation of the British troops. I was already engaged, and I felt that I must do something. I don't know if it was a sort of proud to say, why only the people of the university can do that? We all can also in the secondary school. And I organized a little group of 7. I don't know how to say it to you today. You can call it a commando group, to go to the place where the British have a sort of a camp. And we tried from the canal, Suez and Port Said to obtain some toys. We call it toys, but in reality it is bombs, to put it in front of the door. And finally, they put me in jail. They arrested, and I was about 3 months. And there come again the grandmother who was for me a school. And I am not ashamed to say to you, this grandmother learned me a lot, in spite that she was illiterate. One of the big lessons in my life, when the policemen, the soldiers, come to knock on the door of the prison to say to me how it is going, it is to be able to go after they finish their work, to visit the grandmother, to give her news. The respect they have for her, because of her relation with Sidi Mujahid, Sayyid al-Balawi, and so on. And only question she asked them, she say, is he fearing of something? Fearing. Because she wants that once you do a target which you believe, you must not fear. And that stayed with me all my life, this lesson. Then when time came where I left Tanta to go to the university in Alexandria, and effectively I chose the Faculty of Law. And the Faculty of Law is a choice which I made because of my admiration. You know, when you are young, you choose a model for you, which you say, that is my ideal. My ideal was Umar ibn al-Khattab, who is the symbol of justice. So for me, law and justice, that is the same school of thought. So I went to the Faculty of Law. And also the choice of Alexandria was a good chance for me. When I say to you Alexandria, that was in 49, 50, 51, 52, until 53, where Alexandria was the best model in the Mediterranean to be cosmopolitan town. We have Greeks, Italians, Jews, everything. So this cosmopolitan spirit helped me when I left later to go to Europe. I hadn't felt at all that I am going to a new area. And I must say to you also, that's a funny story when you say to me, you went to economy and you went to business and so on. The business, I learned it when I was in the Faculty of Law, because I was decided that I must go outside, I must travel to go and to pay my studies. And when 51, I have my heritage. Yes, it's not a secret, I can say it to you now. It was about 5,000 pounds. 5,000 in 51, that's huge sum of money, but not enough to go to make 4 or 5 years of studies outside. So I say, with all these foreigners beside me, I say I must go to the Bourse, because there was no home or land. It was shares in companies, shares. When you say shares, you are very near of the concept of the stock exchange. I went there. I had not the right to come in because the money was very poor, and I have not the experience, I have not the card. But I go to the coffee at Place de la Bourse, and I made some exchanges to sell my shares, to buy other shares, and so on. And thanks God, I was able to double the capital in 2 years. So I went to, and when I want to go to Europe, and especially France, because that is the link with the history of law in Egypt, it was very linked to the French law, called Napoleon. But it was very strange to say where to go in France. So before going to the story of going to France, I must underline the fact that in 52, I think 51, 52, we organized as usual the story of the British and to get rid of them so we created a group, which I remember its history until now, which is called Orabi Group, in reference to Ahmad Orabi, to send commandos to Suez Canal zone but what's important to underline, not to elaborate a lot about that, is to say to you, for me, the target to get rid of the occupation. But I never hated the British as such. My closest friend was Mr. Mitchin, who learned me the English in the secondary school. And we continued our relation when I was at the university. That is something, and that's another thing. And that continued to be my line of thought, not to mix the cards. So now we can go, I think, to France, and when I want to go to France, I don't know why, I asked the ambassador of France at these days, please choose for me a university in France where there is no one Egyptian. I say to me, why? I say, because I don't speak one word French, and I must learn. So to learn it, I must not pass my time to speak with my Egyptian friends and so on. So he found me Grenoble, which was a very special town at the head of the mountains of the Alps, and very near of Geneva, very near of Italy. And there I learned French, and I started to take my first diploma of superior diploma for international law, and the second diploma was for the political science. And then I left Grenoble to go to Paris. Before leaving Paris, I must make you remember, because my age can permit to make old stories, as we say. In '56, there was the revolution in Hungary and in Eastern countries to get rid of the Russian, if I can say, not the Russian high hand on them. And so there have been a lot of young people coming from Eastern Europe to live in France and in Italy and in Germany, and coming by trains. And I organized a group there which is called Association for Foreign Students. And I asked them to be helpful. That was always my line of thought, perhaps because I was a scout. And the scout, as we say in their slogan, always ready, and ready for help. So I send my members and the group to the station to receive the students coming as refugees. And I said that everyone choose one, by way, like that. And to take care of him the second day, to take him to the university, to take him where he shall live, and to be helpful for them. And I must confess to you here, there was a chance that the young student I chose, by the way, he was a Jew, Shmulka, Robert Shmulka. And to discover him, that was the first lesson I took in the interfaith more general, not only between Muslim and Christian, but all faiths. Because this boy who was Jew, the normal approach is to say he is pro-Israeli. He was not at all. And until I was active making conferences and so on, when I make a conference about the situation in Middle East, speaking about the right of Arabs, Palestinians, he was the first to support me. And that gave me the first lesson. Never to generalize judgments, never. You take people individually. He is called Robert. I deal with him as an individual. When he make a fault, well, that's another story. I left to Paris because I don't want you to elaborate a lot, and we have a long story. I went to Paris, and there was a big surprise for me. It was not a so big surprise that the money of the bourse finished. So it was necessary to go to fetch a job, like the most of students. So I went to the place where there is, I don't know how to call it in English, the stock for fruits and legumes to come with camion, and how to take it out of the camion, to put it in front of it. You work from 10 o'clock night to 7 o'clock morning. But you are nicely paid cash in front of the camion morning. And then I go to sleep a little bit until 12 o'clock. Then I go to the restaurant of the university. And then I go to the bibliothèque to the university to start my studies. So that was a great experience. Then I found a job which was, I was not unhappy with the first one. And just to say to you a joke, because I like that people can smile, that once I came to take my job at 7 o'clock nights in front of the camion, I found a colleague of mine who was also making political science. He said to me, Ali, I had for you the best news. I say, what happened? I say, today, finish with the vegetables, we shall work with fruits. Fruits is more delicate. The vegetables is huge and a hard task. And that was one of the good news I had. And as in life, it was better and better paid.
موبيزون راجعه لكم بمسابقه مسلسلات بلدنا اللي جوائزها 250 جنيه. ابعت رساله فاضيه على 45 ممكن تكسب 2500 جنيه يوميه، 15000 جنيه اسبوعيه، و40000 جنيه في ليله القدر، وجايزتنا الكبيره 100000 جنيه. ابعت رساله فاضيه من موبايلك على 45 واشترك في مسابقه مسلسلات بلدنا.
Then I went later because I make the contact with some writers, thinkers, and they helped me to go for my first work in 64 in a newspaper which was specialized in foreign affairs. It is called Tribune des Nations. And there was a second surprise. To find that the boss of the journal is also a Jew, El-Samman, and not only a Jew, but he was coming from the camp, which was where the Nazi put the Jews in the old days. This man, all my life, I have my recognition from, because he learned me the profession of media and press. Second, he never refused any editorial I gave it to him. And the most of the editorials was defending the Arab rights. So another message for the second time to say never to generalize. And I continued, and I worked in other newspapers and in other so on, until the day came where all that I put my thesis to take my doctor in law later, to finish with my practical problem of life. I forget to say to you before you ask me about my personal life that in Grenoble I met my first wife, who was American, Julia, and from her I had in 56 my first son, Sam, who is American and who is living in New York. I continued to prepare my thesis because I found that the money now is enough. I can have 1 year off only to do my studies, and I prepared a thesis which was about reciprocal influence between ideology and strategy. In spite that at these days it was the mod ideology. You are a communist, you are a socialist, you are a liberal, and so on. And all my life I never believed in. I believe in strategy. And I think that one of the passages in this thesis which attracted the member of the jury to appreciate my thesis, to say, even of the countries who are obsessed about the ideology, like Russia, yes, but I want to say that the ideology is serving a strategic target. The strategic target is the empire of Russia. And it was a hard and tough discussion. And then I was honored to find the jury giving me the best recompensation, and even to suggest for the University of Grenoble to publish these theses. So, and there also in my contact with the writer thinking and so on, I met with a great writer, those who are in making the history of writers and thinkers in Europe remember him, Jean-Paul Sartre, with his friend Simone de Beauvoir. A chance, once again, a destiny, that he was my neighbor, living second door in Montparnasse, the quartier where there is artists, writers, and so on. And in discussion, Gamal Abdel Nasser was very keen to invite this man to come and to know him and to discover him and to stop his campaign against Nasser, because he is a man who he said to me, Ali, I have no religion, my religion is called liberty. And in Egypt there is a problem of liberty. And then he decided, we have been accustomed to meet every Sunday, to have a coffee, to discuss, to exchange. That is what we call later the dialogue. And I must say to you that during the period of my arrival in Paris, 58, until 67, I was considered student troublemaker, because I want to create Egyptian Association for Students. They say you are mad. There is something here which is called Socialist Union, the one-party system, and the authorization of the security services. And when I say I don't care about that, I shall do it. So the price was high, and there was quarrels. And when I remember when I went to the General Assembly for this association, I took only 2 votes, because at these days the security services were capable to use an arm which is called rumors. And they put the rumors that Ali asked to be a refugee in France. Yes, one of the... So I took 2 votes, mine and my friend until today, Dr. Ahmed Al-Khandour, who was the Dean of the Faculty of Economy and Political Science at the University of Cairo, Ahmed Al-Khandour, and until today, he say always to his wife, who is the daughter of Yusuf Sibai, you know, I voted for him, and I am not a hero, but I believed in what he is doing and so on. So, to go to meet Nasser in 67 because of Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir, because they say we shall not go if Ali is not with us. He never say one lie for us. He don't play politics with us. He even never pushed us to go. And when we came to Egypt, that was another turning point. in my life that once we finished the meeting with Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, and the relations started to be better, that President Nasser asked me to go to his office to have a meeting alone. I remember Haeckel was also with them. And when we came in, step in, I felt since the beginning he wanted to have an answer. As he said to me, there is two topics in front of me. One is the topic of the troublemaker. Why the troublemaker? Why you hadn't cooperated? And the second is all your history is documented in front of me. And that was very strong at these days. All what you wrote in Paris. And not one day you used your place in France to attack the country or the regime. That was always a line of discipline I choose. Those who want to be opposition, they must come to the country and to do it on the ground, not outside. So he won't understand. I said to him, it is very simple, Mr. President, the story of the troublemaker. But that's, I make him laugh because I said to him, I know that that was all my history, to be a troublemaker since the secondary school, but that's not new. But what I made in France, it was to be independent. Your people, you're responsible in the security, who came to ask my help, was a help which was the most stupid help you can ask, is to give them the news of my colleagues in the Quartier Latin, to be, I don't know how we can translate it, mukhbir for them. And I say, well, I can do better in my life. He understood, and I never forget his word at the end, because that was a part of my modest history. He said to me, don't worry, never tomorrow shall resemble with yesterday. Yesterday is finished, and that we start another era. And there was the second, third or fourth surprise, to find the Minister of Information asked me to come to go to see him. He's a friend until today. He's called Muhammad Fay. He was a great minister. He said to me, Ali, we received instructions from the president to choose for you a post in Paris with our information services. And we choose for you Middle East News Agency. And later, we want you with the radio and television. And I had the honor to say to you that I was the first correspondent in Paris in 1967, I think, just after my coming back. And that was a turning point to go to a profession, to be a radio man. And people until today remember of this announcement of the program twice a week, which is called نتحدث إليكم من Paris. I deliver my program from Paris. So, and it continued, and it made me a repetition to be a man of media until Sadat heard about it. And when he came to power, he asked me to be his advisor during the war of '73 for information. And I must say that I never forget the importance and the proud, I must say, to be charged to prepare a new approach for radio and television programs. And he said to me, my instruction to you is very simple. We want to speak the same language inside and outside. Please to prepare these models. And as you know, that he kept the story of the date of the war highly secret. And for once in the history of Egypt, there was a secret seriously kept. So he said to me, don't say it to the people of the media until I authorize you to go to see them. That was the era where big names like Hamad Mustafa and so on was the boss of the... And I remember when he said to me, now you must go to see them, I felt that we are not far of the date of the war. And when I said to him, anyhow, they are all colleagues, I can go to see them, he gave me a lesson of a statesman. He said to me, no, you don't go to see them. If not, it shall be a chat between colleagues. You ask them to come to see you at the presidency office at Abdin, to be understood that is the policy of the state. During all these days, I can never be silent in front of the high interest in my life I gave to interfaith dialogue, the formal interfaith. The interfaith, I do it in practice all time. But that was I must say, in 95. Where in France there was an association for dialogue which is called ADIC, Association Dialogue Islamo-Chrétien. And I confess to you, once I was elected 1 year later president, I made it Ghida Islamo-Chrétien for the three religions. And I never forget the Sheikh Dr.Aly, the ex Imam of Al-Azhar, helped me. He said to me, yes, we must make the distinguo. The Jews, the Israelis, for me, when we say religions, that means three monotheistic religions. And I finally arrived to realize one of the points which I am very proud to be able to do it in my life. It was 98 to make the Azhar sign an agreement with the Vatican, and that was the first time to put Al-Azhar in formal relation with an international institute, the Vatican. And 2 years later, I made the same agreement, no, it was 2002, an agreement with the Church of England, with Lord Carey, and it was also an important agreement and important turning point. But when I speak about religion, we cannot forget our friends here, and I must say to you that the relation with the Copt is not a dialogue, because you make the dialogue with the other. And for me, the Copt is not the other. He is Egyptian like me, I am Egyptian like him. So always for me the dialogue is with the other. It can be Catholic, it can be Protestant. And I was always by nature interested to international relations. And I always wanted that the Azhar to be a partner in this international game. And I must say to you that the ADIC, which I still, until today, thanks God, president, I don't know why they kept me all these years, but one day I hope they shall be fed up and to say to me, now it is time for you to write again. And I must say to you that when I go to a certain target to say, you must do better, I don't like to make it as a part of history, to say now you have a glory and you live beside it. So now the ADIC, I'm glad to say to you that we created a branch in Egypt, ADIC Egypt, and I made it just 2 months before the revolution, and we have good names, and I have Munir Fakhri Abdul Noor, I have Sawiris, I have this great lady and Professor Zainab Radwan, who worked a lot about scholar books, and now in our days we are making a study and advices to be given to the Ministry of Education how to make the books in a language of conciliation, tolerance. We are working with that, and I hope that we can go ahead. I'm now married with a French lady, Brigitte, makes more than 25 years. I'm sure that she shall be the last one. And I have only this son, which I said to you before, Sammy and Sam. And he's working as a, he's mad with the net and the computer. That is his passion. And he would do that for the, an American bank for years. And now he became independent, and he worked the software for himself. But I see him twice a year, once there and once he come to see me in Egypt.